Welcome back to Unsolicited Inspiration, episode 4. Today, I want to talk about something that is really a difficult concept to discuss because it's something very real, very essential to our faith, our practice, our beliefs, and it's something that really doesn't sit well for most people, even though they'll never admit it. That topic that I want to talk about today is Mashiach, the topic that makes everyone so uncomfortable for so many different reasons. Um, and I want to kind of take this in a direction that you probably don't typically hear. So I'm going to venture to say that most of the Orthodox world actually has no idea what Mashiach is. And as a result of that, most of the Orthodox people who live a very frum, observant lifestyle actually don't want Mashiach. And I'm just going to say it outright. They actually don't want Mashiach. As much as they might say that they do, as much as they might say amen to someone saying a speech at shul about how, ending it with, oh, and God willing, we'll all go to the Beis HaMikdash together. They'll all finish their Pesach Seder with L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Everyone says, oh, we'll be in the Beis HaMikdash together. Before any simcha, they'll say, oh, okay, well, hopefully the simcha will move to the Beis HaMikdash and we'll be there together. It's all very nice and wishful thinking. But I think that if you drill it down and actually asked each person one-on-one, God-fearing people, if they actually want Mashiach when it comes down to it, I think most people would say no. Like, if they were truly honest. Now, let's talk about some basic fundamentals. In Rambam's 13 Principles of Faith, he says that you have to live every day waiting for Mashiach, not just acknowledging that Mashiach is something that's going to come, someone who's going to come, a time period, an era, but actually awaiting Mashiach's arrival. That you actually have to do something active, because just knowing or acknowledging Mashiach's existence is really not an action. It's just, okay, fine, I know it. Awaiting Mashiach's arrival is very different. It requires an active participation. So no one argues Rambam on any of that. And at the end of Hilchos Melachim, at the end of the Yad HaChazaka, the Rambam's Mishnah Torah, the Rambam ends talking about what Mashiach is and what to expect at the quote-unquote end of days. Now, I hate that term, end of days. I've always hated it because it comes across like a very Christian Armageddon. The end of the world is coming. And actually, this is, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people, they don't just not want Mashiach, but they actually fear Mashiach. And there's always been this sort of connotation and association with Mashiach as everything is going to get destroyed. There's going to be these battles, these wars, these Gog and Magog. The world's going to fight each other, and there's only going to be, 20% of the Jewish people who actually survive these wars and make it to Mashiach. And as someone who has lived his life surrounded by the foremost authority on Mashiach, the one person in this world who has spoken more about Mashiach than anyone probably in history, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I've just been exposed to a Mashiach that is so different than what I hear and what I come across when I meet most frum people. The reason I'm saying frum people is because, I don't even know how prevalent a concept that is in conservative Judaism or in Reform Judaism. If they even talk about that, I don't pretend to be well versed there. But if you're just secular and non-observant, it's probably not even on your radar. But a lot of people have been talking about this more and more and more since October 7th, which is part of the problem also. Uh, and I'll get to that in a second. But people will just, are so quick to talk about Mashiach when bad things happen. And there's almost an association of negative things must equal Mashiach. And as messed up as that is, it just doesn't really make sense to me, even though it makes so much sense. Because for many, many years, I remember growing up with this, used to hear that this Kabbalist would say in Israel, oh, there was a big earthquake in India. There's a sign of Mashiach coming. And, oh, this thing just happened. It must be that we're on the forefront of Mashiach. And that to me always scared the crap out of me. Like, oh my God, like all these people have to die for Mashiach to come. Like, wow, there has to be literally a ground breaking, earth shattering earthquake for Mashiach to come. Like, why all these associations? It was always like, do tshuva now because Mashiach's about to come. And I'm like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Like, Mashiach's going to come and then I'm going to be screwed if I don't do tshuva. Like, it was like scaring me into like Mashiach. And I was just like, I don't understand this. Like, you have the Lubavitcher Rebbe sitting here going, guys, Mashiach. Now, I don't want to get into the whole Lubavitch, whether the Rebbe's Mashiach or not, or what people believe, and whether some people take that as, a negative or a positive. That's not what this is about, okay? That could be a different topic and a different podcast and a much longer one, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The point that I'm making is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is sitting here for 42 years, 41 years, talking about Mashiach's arrival, how we have to not just know that he's coming, but actually help bring him. And on the flip side, and he's saying so many positive things about what's going to be and why we need Mashiach and all this other stuff. And on the flip side, I'm hearing these, Kabbalists and all these people talking about there's a big war and that means Mashiach is coming and we all have to do tshuva before we're all screwed. And it's just like, dude, what is this thing? Are we being like positive about Mashiach? Are we not? Now, I think one of the main definitions that causes this, or the main causes that cause this fear of Mashiach is that, and causes us to not want Mashiach, is that we simply don't know what it is. One of my closest friends always says that the Mishnayos and Pirkei Avos talks about that the biggest fear a man can have is fear of the unknown, just fear of just not knowing what's coming. And when it comes to Mashiach, short of the afterlife of dying, I don't know many things that are more unknown to a people who seemingly know everything. Right? Every Jew has all the answers to everything, and the Torah has all the answers to everything. But even the Torah doesn't give us so much clarity on Mashiach, so we rely on people who speak about it to talk about what Mashiach is. And, if you look in the early, Nevi'im, all these prophets are talking about in the end of days, this is going to happen and there's going to be this. And, this week specifically, they're talking about, look how we took Damascus, and Damascus is a thing in Yeshaya and talks about this. And there's so many things, but no one really gets to the core of what Mashiach actually is. Now, as far as it relates to the unknown, ever since I was a little kid, I remember asking my dad, hey, Abba, is the sun ever going to explode? And he said to me, this was when he was an atheist and didn't believe in anything, and didn't realize that the sun was just a creation of God that sits here to serve and do its purpose every day, and technically could be infinite if Hashem wants it to be. But I remember as a kid being worried that one day the sun was going to explode and that the world was going to just disintegrate. And he said, yeah, one day. I mean, it's a star. It doesn't live forever. But when it does, don't worry. It'll be way past the time that we're all here. Like, we're all going to be dead for a long time by the time it explodes. And I was thinking like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm going to die first. Like, which is just ridiculous because I remember probably being 6 or 7 years old asking him this. But when that happened, I thought to myself like, okay, so I don't have to worry about dying from the sun exploding because I'll already be dead from natural causes, which is just ridiculous. But the point that I'm making here is that death seemed like the ultimate end, right? And it was like, okay, well, I could justify that even if I died, I could be a good person. This was before I knew about Torah and mitzvahs. I could be a good person and I could go to heaven. And heaven must be amazing because every single movie has heaven and hell, and every story is about how good heaven is. And when I pictured heaven, I guess I was a 6-year-old, I pictured candy and soccer balls and whatever else I thought heaven was. And as I got older, I guess my understanding of heaven or Gan Eden is different than it was before. But that to me seemed like, okay, if you're going to find purpose in this life, even if you live the best life of all time and you are the most influential, best person, you've contributed the most to your family, to yourself, to the world that anyone could ever contribute, you would still just die at the end of it. And so it was like, okay, but this world is a corridor, like you're just passing through. And eventually, and yes, I had all these existential crises every summer when I didn't have school filling my mind and I had a whole bunch of time to play basketball at Robertson Park and go bike riding to Lotberger. But when I had time, I could think about that. But the point is that I thought, okay, fine, at least when I die, I will get to go to heaven. And heaven must be freaking awesome. And so even if I can't understand the permanency of heaven or that this life is super temporary, at least I believed in something that was sold to me as awesome. No one ever says, well, in order for you to get to heaven, there has to be all these wars, and the world has to blow up. It's like, no, dude, heaven is awesome. Like, that's why it's heaven, right? But when you learn more and more, you actually realize that us as Jews, even if we go to heaven, we're constantly brought back down to this world. We're constantly have fulfilling more missions that we didn't fulfill in past lives. And the reincarnation, process is in order for us to keep doing more and more that we didn't do. So even going to heaven is temporary if you're not perfect. And then I looked at Mashiach and thought, wait a second. One of the main things that's talked about in the time of Mashiach, and something that we say in our davening every single day, is we mention the resurrection of the dead, Tchiyat HaMetim, all the time. We talk about this constantly. That one of the things in Mashiach is that Hashem brings all the Jews back to life. And even, Rambam talks about 2 different phases. And in the first phase, let's say it's 40 years, only the righteous will come back. And then after that, everyone will come back. But basically this concept of coming back. And I'm thinking, wait a second. If I'm living my entire life just to go to heaven one day, eventually I'm going to get pulled out of heaven and come back down to here. Like, if I die before Mashiach comes, and by the way, I'm not a new soul. I guarantee I've been in this world many times, have died, hopefully gone to heaven, and come back. I'm here again, right? So like, what? I'm just in this infinite, endless cycle of coming back to this dark, gross world where you can't see godliness, and you just have to battle through the struggle of being a Jew in a secular world. And happens to be that we happen to be living in the best time for humanity ever. Who knows what pogroms I was around for, or inquisitions, or destructions of Beis Hamikdash, or whatever else it was. Like, so what's going to be that, like, if I even make it to the pinnacle of what a Jew could make it to, which is heaven, that eventually I come back down into this world to keep doing more stuff that I didn't do, and one day, when I fulfill everything I've had to fulfill, all my missions, and I perfect my soul, I can go up to heaven and stay there until Mashiach comes, where I come back down to here. Heaven started feeling like just another corridor, right? Another holding area. You've done well, in this world, so you get to chill in heaven, and then in heaven you get to chill in a really nice, comfortable place. And then when Mashiach comes, you get pulled out of heaven and you get to come back down here into a regular body. Heaven started feeling like the place that isn't permanent, like it's no longer the end goal, right? Now, personally, as a human being in this body, all I can feel is that I don't want to go to heaven. I want to stay here and live the best freaking life I could possibly live for an infinite amount of years, because it feels like I'm losing part of my existence if I go to heaven, right? Like, yes, I have this body, and yes, by the time most people pass, their bodies are kind of gross and can't do much, and they're sick and they're uncomfortable and they have aches and pains and they don't remember stuff. And it's not a great body to live in. So maybe at that point, heaven feels good. But this is like my car. This is what I drive around in. And everyone who knows me knows I love my car. But it's where I think, it's where I live, it's where I speak, it's where I do. I want to be in this vehicle for as long as possible. So heaven started really losing its value in my mind. Now, all of that being said, I want to clarify that because of all of this, we're living essentially a cyclical lie. Yes, it's true. If you're great, you go to heaven. And yes, heaven is great because you get to enjoy a radiance of God's light. You get to enjoy, I'm not going to say this is like, Happy Gilmore heaven where you have a pretty girl and beer and sunlight and you're a midget riding on a pony or whatever, a bicycle, tricycle, whatever he's riding on. I'm talking about like Jewish heaven, okay? Where the people who are there get to enjoy a radiance of actual godliness. They get to feel godliness in a way that they can't feel it here. And the higher you are in heaven, the more godliness is revealed to you, the more you get to enjoy your life source, your sustenance. It's like being able to get closer to the sun without getting burnt, where you have more and more layers of protection, and now you can see more of the sun and feel more of the sun and actually enjoy it in a way that you can't here. But that to me just is like, still, you're getting a radiation. You're not actually getting the light of godliness. You're getting like, a reflection of a reflection so that you can internalize it and enjoy it. So when you look at what Mashiach actually is, the people who are positive about Mashiach, they think of Mashiach as there won't be sickness in the world, and the lion will lay with the lamb, and the Jewish people will have peace, and everyone will finally stop trying to kill us, and we'll have Israel, and we'll be able to bring sacrifices, and all of these positive things, which if you look at the last 100 years, the world was really stagnant for like 650 years or so. Like, technology didn't really advance much. People still died of all sorts of illnesses and pandemics and epidemics and all these different things. And the world never really progressed. In the last 100 years or so, we're starting to see amazing inventions, right? Advances in medicine, advances in technology, in transportation, in communication, right? The fact that I can sit here and record in my office and whoever wants to listen can see and hear me talking about whatever I want to talk about. The internet, all of these things that have made the world a substantially better place. Now, you could argue there's negatives to all these things, but just hear me out, right? Cars, airplanes, penicillin, electricity, technology, the computers. I could keep going and going and going. The world has gotten substantially better. And a lot of people who want Mashiach, they want Mashiach because they want all the positive benefits. And I'm happy that those people want Mashiach because it's better than being afraid of Mashiach or being scared of what Mashiach is. But those people, they want the side effects of Mashiach. They want all the good that comes with it, where, hey, our soldiers will stop dying on the front lines because there are no more wars. And that's amazing. That's what I want too. And people won't get sick, or if they get sick, they'll get healed right away, or we'll have access to our holy land in Israel. All of these things that are just amazing. We won't have the sadness that we experience right now. All of those things are really good symptoms of the cause, which is Mashiach. And the fact that the world has progressed so much in the last 100 years is a very clear sign, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe said this already in 1951 in his opening speech, that you're seeing the world progress towards Mashiach in a really big way, which is why you are seeing all of these benefits, these added effects of the cause. But even those things are not the root of what Mashiach is, and that is what I want to talk to you about today, because this requires a lot more than being afraid of wars, whether you believe that that has to happen or not, or the benefits and the symptoms of Mashiach's arrival. Mashiach is about something way, way, way more than that, that actually applies to our lives on a daily basis in many different aspects. You see, Hashem created the world for one reason, and one reason only. It wasn't for us to go to Gan Eden and heaven temporarily until he pulls us out at Tchias HaMetim to come to Mashiach. The whole purpose of this world was that Hashem said, I want my light, my unfiltered light of the sun, to be able to be down here in this lowly world and shine as bright as it does up there. And that is what he desired. And so he gave us a venue. He gave us this world. And he gave us an instruction manual. And he put us in this world in bodies so that we can be here preparing the world for a state at which point he could shine in full force here. Because that was his whole desire. Why that's what he likes, why that's what he desires, that's not on me. I can't tell you that. That's just him. That's what he enjoys. I can't tell him what to enjoy. But he created this whole system so that we could get to there. Obviously, everything we do along the way is temporary. Everything we do while we're chilling in Gan Eden is just a holding space. We're just on deck until we get the call back up to either come back here and keep creating this world, making it into what it's supposed to be in the ultimate purpose, or to come back down when it's time for the ultimate purpose, right? Everything else seems so temporary. If we're going to accept that that is why Hashem created the world, which is what he said, I'm not saying that. That's what the Torah says. That's why Hashem created the world. Then the end of days doesn't mean the end of the world. It means the end of the world as we know it. The end of days means the end of these days, the days that are dark, the ones where God can't manifest himself here in a revealed way. So the end of days should symbolize this is the end of the bad days and the start of the good days. And as the Lubavitcher Rebbe said many times, the beginning of the next days, the days of Mashiach, the infinite days, those are the days where Hashem gets to shine here in full radiance. He, by himself, gets to be here in his full form and shine as bright as he naturally shines without filters. And everything else is just a lead up to that. Once you understand that, you understand that no amount of temporary pleasure or benefit or success, be it in this world or in heaven, can even be compared to what is going to be at the time of Mashiach. And honestly, it got very depressing for me throughout my life to live for Gan Eden because of that, because it just seemed like no matter how much money I could make here, no matter how great a family I could have, no matter how good of a life I can live here, that can't be as good at Gan Eden. And then no matter how much Gan Eden I would be in, that's just temporary, because that's not the ultimate purpose. Because if that was the case, Hashem wouldn't have to keep sending us back here, right? He could have just created a world where we just go to Gan Eden and chill there. But that's not what he wanted. He wanted us down here on purpose in lowly bodies to elevate ourselves and our bodies to the point that we can get to a place where this world in our bodies, the way I want to be, that's what we get to be. And that's the epitome, right? That's the pinnacle of the world's existence. In order to get there, there's still a lot of unknown that you have to get over, right? Because just like I don't know what heaven is, I also don't know what the pinnacle of Mashiach is, right? So I can say, okay, fine, I understand the effects of the cause, the positivity that comes out as symptoms, and that people won't be sick, and the Jewish people will live forever, and that we'll get to go to Beis Hamikdash, and we'll get to have our land, and all these other good things, and people won't struggle for money, there won't be poverty, and all this other good stuff. But what is the core? Okay, this is a concept that applies to Avos Yisrael, to loving every Jew as well. And they go really hand in hand. The core is an elevation of your soul over your body to the point that that's what your body becomes. You see, in Hashem's ultimate game over, i.e., the game is just beginning, the time of Mashiach, we don't all leave our bodies and go to Shemaim and sit there in Gan Eden as souls. Hashem said, no, the time of Mashiach is about your bodies. Your souls I had before I created your bodies. I didn't need to create bodies for your soul. Your bodies I created because that's what I chose in you, the Jewish people. I chose that your soul elevates your body to the point that your body looks and acts and feels like your soul. And then the ultimate purpose in the time of Mashiach, and forget that Gog and Magog was a spiritual battle according to Lubavitcher Rebbe, and forget that all the negative associations is just nonsense. The people scare you to do tshuva. And yeah, look, it's good to do mitzvahs now, because at the time when Mashiach comes, and it'll be so obvious to you, we will get to actually see godliness with our own eyes. It won't be a test to do mitzvahs anymore, so you don't get the same credit for it. The job shifts, right? Our purpose here shifts at that point. We won't have to say, let's elevate the world. The world will already be elevated. It'll be about elevating ourselves and drawing down more and more and more light here. But in the time of Mashiach, it'll be that our souls are so revealed to us, we will feel and see the benefits of doing a mitzvah. You will get to see that when you do a mitzvah, this is what actually happens. Anyone who knows me knows I love the Matrix, because it's like we're all living in the Matrix. And if you want truth, if you want actual emes of the Torah, the truth is that our souls are what give us all our energy, and it's who we really are. That's why we can leave these bodies and come back in other ones and still stay us. The time of Mashiach is about our souls being elevated over our bodies to the point that our bodies become like our souls. And so you should want Mashiach not just for all those benefits. You should want Mashiach not just because, hey, I'm sick of working so hard for the temporary, be it having an amazing life in this world, or having Gan Eden, because even that is temporary, and I want permanency. I want what is the ultimate purpose. I don't want to put in the work for the temporary. You should want Mashiach because, number one, it's the whole reason why Hashem created this entire world. This whole purpose was for that. Number two, if you're honest with yourself and you don't want to live in the matrix and you don't want to lie to yourself about what this world is and what you're here to do, you have to want the truth. I don't live in a way where I lie to myself. I tell myself the truth all the time. And that truth is that if I'm living for anything other than Mashiach, I'm living for something temporary. I'm not living for the real purpose. We have to come to a place where we understand that Mashiach is the core focus of our entire existence. It's what the world has been fighting for 5,785 years. Yes, we will have all this positivity. Yes, we'll have all the symptoms. But Mashiach is the core of who we are. It's the time where our essence gets to shine because God's essence gets to shine. It's the time where we won't have to believe anymore that when we do good things, there's a positive effect somewhere that we won't get to find out for until 120 years, because we'll be able to get to see it in our real eyes. I don't know about you guys, but I want the truth. In a world where information is so readily available, but also so skewed, I want the truth. I want to see the effects of my actions. I want to see all the stuff that I have to take a leap of faith now in order to believe is true. I want to see Hashem, and I want to see him here, and I want to see him in my body. Hopefully, you guys do too.